It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, November 25th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that loves a comeback and overtime win when you're on the right side of it, right?
Yeah, it was exciting.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit fanduel.com to get started. To keep up with our episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, including Blue Sky, and of course here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We, of course, will be previewing tonight's matchup against the Vegas Golden Knights and getting to our nemesis of the week. But Russ, Matvei Michkov does it again. His second overtime winner so far this season. And I mean, John Tortorella said post game that he thinks that Matvei Michkov just loves these kind of scenarios and wants to be there, as does Travis Konechny, right? And so this is the only chance he has to put them together because, as we have learned, you can't put them on their off positions, and so it's really difficult to put them out together 5-on-5. So seems to be working though situationally.
It is. And it's something where, yeah, Michkov definitely performs well with the bright lights. I still would like Torts to play him more minutes. I mean, he needs to play. He's still sheltering him too much, I think. And I think they're going to need his offense, quite honestly. But at any rate, it was exciting and it is a time for him to shine. And it's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Of course, there were some significant lineup changes in that game. Morgan Frost finally checks back into the lineup. Started out on a line with Michkov, but there was some shuffling. We'll get into that. But the bigger part of it was the blue line updates because Cam York was back in, Emil Andre was back in, and that meant that Johnson and Zamula sat in this game. In addition, Anthony Richard was sent down to the Phantoms. Torts said post-game that he was really bummed out that he had to send him back down, really liked what he had done with the Flyers, but given the return of the blue liners, there just wasn't a roster spot for him, and it kind of is what it is, right?
No, that's fair. I mean, that does happen with guys. But we are going to get to something that's a little puzzling with the blue line as far as minutes. We know Cam York played his first game back. Why in the world are you playing him 20 minutes? Nick Seeler only played 13. It doesn't make sense.
It was interesting because not only did the forward line shuffle, but the defensive pairing shuffled at some point during that game because it started out with York with Sanheim, which we said that they shouldn't do on his return. We said they should put him on the second pairing, which they eventually did later in the game, and he was mostly with Risto, right?
Yeah.
But Andre started out with Risto and then moved up with Sanheim. He was just coming back too, it's not great for either one of them.
No.
And they definitely both had a little bit of difficulty coming back into it. But I think with Emil Andre, at least, we saw more flashes of who he is out there versus Cam York, who
he was more healthy, so I didn't
struggled.
mind his 24 minutes as much. It's a lot,
Right?
But he was more healthy, and you could see it. York's not himself right this minute. And I think you could see that by watching him play.
Yeah, which I think was the reason why they did that switcheroo at some point.
Yeah.
Because they could see that like pretty early on. But I think the net result of them taking the load off Sanheim is really good. Sanheim only had 25 minutes and 10 seconds in this game, which is pretty solid for him. Andre played over 24 minutes, which maybe was a little too much, but again, he looked like he was better off than Cam York in this game. It was very interesting because both goals against were with the Sanheim York pairing out there, but both regulation goals for were the York Risto pairing. So came out in the wash for Cam York, I guess.
It did. The one thing though, when you're at a 0-0 game, you should never send four guys deep like they did. That
Mhm.
first goal, like that was just you're playing a team in Chicago that's not great defensively to begin with. You handed them an opportunity there to get an odd man rush. Like I just don't understand the thinking behind that. They got away with it because they eventually won the game, but I at the beginning
Right.
I was just like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I think Torts was not pleased with that play either.
No,
Uh,
no. I mean, clearly it's
so
not on him. The players chose it, but it's like, guys,
sure.
you gotta be a little safer than that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that the line shuffling worked, the forward line
Hmm.
and the pairing adjustments. And, we've been talking about how Torts and the coaching staff have been struggling with in game adjustments a little bit, but this is one that they did very well and things worked out.
It is. The only thing is that you know, they always talk about if a player is really struggling, he should sit. Owen Tippett should sit. Like I wouldn't have sent Richard down only because he's playing better than Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett hasn't played well in weeks, and he struggled in that game too. In a game that the Flyers had a lot of shots on goal, but he doesn't get a lot of shots on goal. So I get that they want him to get out of it, but he might just need a break for a game.
Yeah, there's like some guys where it works to play through it and some guys where it doesn't, and they haven't tried the sit-up option to see if it helps. So
I
it
mean, he
may
didn't even
be
register a
a good
shot on
thing.
goal that game where the Flyers were clearly out shooting the Blackhawks. That's not a great thing.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it didn't help that Mrazek was playing extremely well in the first half of the game for sure, but I think that, the Flyers saw that they were getting really good chances and just kept shooting, and that was the strategy because eventually
Hmm.
Mrazek wouldn't be able to sustain that for the whole game,
Right.
right? And
Yeah, the
that's how it
defense broke
turned
down.
out.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
is how it turned out. Defense broke down. Flyers goaltending Kolosov was good. So that worked out. In the next
Yeah.
game, it's not going to work out. Like they got to play a different kind of game.
Yeah, well, Vegas is a very different team, and we'll talk about that, but we've been harping a little bit on shot blocking.
Hmm.
18 of them in this game, less than Chicago even had, again,
Right.
because the Flyers were shooting pretty well in
Yes.
this game. But I think that's pretty reasonable, other than the fact that Nick Sealer had 5 of them. And that's just a little, is he going to get worn out
Right.
alarm?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but otherwise, yeah, it was good that the shot blocking was down.
Yes, absolutely. I also think that they still need to work a little bit on the giveaways. They had a bunch of turnovers in this game, and 12 for the Flyers, only 6 for Chicago. And I think that that led to some of the grade A chances for the Blackhawks, including one of the goals at least was a huge turnover, right?
Yeah.
So
It was a little too loose the first couple of periods with that. No question. They were getting shots, but they were giving up a lot of chances.
yeah,
Not a lot
I
of
think.
chances, grade A chances. That's what they were giving up.
Correct, correct. How do you think Morgan Frost did in his first game back?
I think he was pretty good. I think I saw one bad play, but look, 58% on faceoffs. We talked about it. Other than Couturier, that's their next highest guy. So
Right.
that's. But again, so here's the other thing: no power play time, really.
That was the question mark for me, honestly, in this game for him, because I think that Torts is starting to see him a little bit more as a defensive player than an offensive player.
But he's
And to
not.
be fair, he's not producing, so I understand where that thought comes from, but that's not who he is, his bread and butter,
No,
right?
like we can't hear on broadcasts that they know how talented he is. Torts knows how talented he is, and then you don't use him on the power play. To me, that's just lip service. Then,
Right, I think you throw him out there on the power play. I
yeah,
100% agree with that because it gives him better chances and maybe that gets him going a little bit. Because Torts did notice post game that, he didn't create a lot early, but he was really great defensively and competed defensively in the way that he expected Frost to play. And I don't think he was glowing, but he certainly praised good elements of Frost's game. And I think that if you just throw him out there on the power play and give him a shot, I think it could really help jumpstart his
yeah.
offense there.
Not to mention, until the power play goal in overtime, they were like 3 for 30 something.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's not
It's
like it
not
doesn't need
exactly
help.
going gangbusters without him. Aleksei Kolosov, first NHL win. Absolutely love to see it. It feels like he should have had one already, but
It
hadn't.
does, doesn't it? That was odd. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that was his first win."
Yeah, I thought he got better as the game went on in terms of
He did.
freezing the puck. Only 2 of the shots on goal of the 21 were rebound shots in the end, so I think that's a little bit of an improvement, even though, again, he only faced 21 shots this
Right.
time around, but I do think that's a little bit better than he
It
has been
was.
doing.
It was a little bit better. I mean, look, I mean, Chicago's not great. I thought Bedard had some good chances, but Lucas Reichel was on fire. Like I told you, if they were
Yep.
gonna trade
Well,
Frost,
we talked about
that's
him.
the guy I would get.
Right. I don't know if Chicago would give him up,
I
but
know, I
I'd
know.
certainly try. Um, Noah Cates, always good to see him get on the board.
Yeah, that
Coach
was
was
nice.
very happy for him, noted that, he's bounced him around the lineup, he's responded well, and it was good to see him getting
He only
rewarded.
played him 11 minutes, like, 11:36 is not a lot.
He made the best of it, though, I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
say. All right, we are going to look ahead to tonight's matchup at the against the Vegas Golden Knights coming up next.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check it out, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I'm going to go with the Packers over the Dolphins here. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right. On tomorrow's show, we are going to break down tonight's Vegas versus Flyers game that we're about to talk about. Plus, we'll have Phantoms Tuesday. On Wednesday, we're going to answer your mailbag questions as per usual. So get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail, send us a message on any of our socials, or comment on our YouTube channel. Real quickly, just because it's always relevant when an ex Flyers universe person is in the hockey news. Jim Montgomery, who was just fired from the Boston
What,
Bruins,
like 2
hired
days ago?
to yeah, this is like the shortest unemployment time that I can remember for an NHL coach. But the Blues fired Drew Bannister and hired Jim Montgomery and signed him to a 5-year deal.
I'm a little surprised at the 5 years, but I'm not surprised that they got rid of Bannister. Even though he was
Right.
39, 36, and whatever, he just didn't have anything. I didn't like the lineup changes he was doing. I talked to Haley Simon a lot about it when the Blues were playing. Didn't love it. So I think the change is good. The only thing is, it's not like the roster has changed. So it's like, the Blues are trending down. Montgomery might squeeze another good season out of them, like good meaning they might make the playoffs, maybe two, but at some point he's going to be a rebuilding coach too.
Yeah, and that's where they were headed in Boston as well. So
Correct.
very interesting. The Flyers, in fact, do play those St. Louis Blues this Saturday, so we'll get to see them pretty quickly.
Yep. Yep. It's weird. I don't think I've ever seen that where a coach changed teams that quickly and he just played, the
Mid-season.
Flyers, yeah, midseason. The Flyers just played Boston a couple of weeks ago, right? It's weird.
Yep, it is very weird. The Vegas Golden Knights are inexplicably somehow atop the Pacific Division because I don't think they're as good as their record shows. They're 13-6-2 so far. Won their last 2 games, including against the Montreal Canadiens. They played the evening on Saturday where they won 6-2, and they've had some injury struggles
Yeah,
again, as per usual with the Vegas Golden Knights.
true.
Mark Stone has been day to day out since November 6th. Alex Petrangelo has been out. It's just been kind of a weird season for them. Brett Howden just got a 5-year contract extension, though. He's been playing very well, and
He's an
I think
interesting one
deserved it.
because I covered him in the World Juniors. I liked what I saw out of him as a, junior hockey player. I thought he'd be a little more offensive in the NHL, but he's like got a different career path, and kind of that's what guys have to do sometimes. They have to change a little bit. Like Barbashev did the opposite. Like I knew Barbashev always had this talent and he always would hit people, so he's kind of like
Mhm.
a different version of Brad Marchand, but like that. And the last couple of years, he's really reaching his potential. He's a guy you have to watch now.
And, one of the more interesting things about their game on Saturday against Montreal, they had a 5-goal second period in that
Uh-oh.
game. And as you know, that does kinda make you think a little bit because the Flyers do have the most goals against in the NHL in the second period at 31. But interestingly, Vegas, much like the Flyers, scores most of their goals late in the game. And so, how is this going to match up against each other in terms of both of these teams going to ramp up their play as the game continues? It just it'll come down to, can the Flyers prevent a second period collapse?
Yeah, I think we're gonna be looking for that. Jack Eichel, if I were to vote for, MVP right now, the heart, I would vote Jack Eichel. Like he's one of the big reasons. This team, I think the reason they have the record they do is their best players are still some of the best players in the league. Like Stone was off to a great start this year. Jack Eichel is one of the best. Uh, Alex Petrangelo is still one of the best at his. So they have enough of those guys. Hurdle was a really big ad. So like the big guns for them are still really big.
Right, and I think the other thing too is that their power play is so good,
Yeah,
right now. They're in the, like, top 5 in the NHL. I think they're at the 3rd right now on their power play, and so the fact that they're able to execute on that is really important. When you have those goal scorers and they get it done, I think that's really key. Now their PK is, you know, bottom 3rd of the league, kinda hovering around, like, 9th, 10th worst,
yeah, probably
but
because they score so many goals. Like they've had 81 goals this year. So even though their PK is off a little, they're still outscoring teams.
right, and, their goaltending is mid,
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Aiden Hill and
But they
Ilya
won a Stanley
Samsonov.
Cup with that.
They did, and that's the thing, is that when everything else kinda covers for that, it doesn't really matter, and then you have your goaltenders, if they could steal a game or 2 here or there,
Right.
that's all you need, right?
It is.
So Aiden Hill played against Montreal, and Ilya Samsonov has better stats than Hill, obviously in fewer games because Hill's their number 1
Right.
goaltender at this point. But the Golden Knights are playing the Avs and the Jets next. So there is a definite possibility that Samsonov gets this start.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he is going to get the start. So yeah, the Flyers have played against him. It's a goalie. They know it's surrounded by a better team. For me, the big thing about the Flyers is even though they got more shots last game, they can't be as chancy, especially early, because you don't want to fall far behind. Like if you're 2-0 with Vegas, it's different than being 2-0 down with Chicago.
Right. And I think, in terms of being risky, right, with plays, they just can't
No.
do that. They have to play a little bit more buttoned up,
Yep.
a little bit more conservative, though not too much, because again, against this goaltending, they're going to get their chances and, they just have to finish. And I think getting goals early should be helpful for them, but then they have to shut it down.
This is gonna be a very physical game, though. Like, we saw the Zach Whitecloud hit. We could talk about it for a whole show.
Yeah.
Barbashev is very
Did not get
physical.
suspended for that.
No.
Weird, but
Yeah.
okay.
Well, because it's one of those catch-22s. As the rule book is constituted, it's not a penalty. Okay, but you see what happened. Like, so I think that needs to be amended.
Right.
But until it
Right.
is, can't
That
argue
was
it.
in the Leafs game again, the hit against
Yes.
Matthew Knies. So
Yeah,
just
but this is gonna be a very physical game, and last game wasn't as physical for the Flyers, so I think this one, they're gonna have to be ready for that, and I think that's gonna change the way the game will be played, I think.
Yeah, as we were saying, the Vegas Golden Knights are shooting at an extremely high rate. They're getting a ton of shots on goal per game and, 3.75 goals for per game and allowing 3.1. So again, there's room to score against this team,
There
but
is.
they tend to outscore you, which is the problem here, right?
It is, and just so you don't forget the name, if Keegan Kolosov is in there, he's in the top 7 in the league in hits. So he's another guy that's why he's out there. So I think you might see Delorier in this game. Might.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's possible. I just don't know given how the Flyers have been playing that they don't wanna keep the more offensively minded guys in the lineup.
I would too, but I think they're gonna go after Michkov a little bit. That's what I think they're gonna do.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they figure out some other strategy
Yeah,
for that
maybe.
'cause I think if I were Torts, I would wanna keep the same lineup we just had against Chicago
I
and
would
see how it
too, but
goes.
I had to bring it up because you never know.
Well, that's fair. That is absolutely fair, but, we will see how it goes against the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll talk about that tomorrow, but it is Monday, so we will have our nemesis of the week coming up next. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this NHL season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks now with as little as 4 correct picks. And PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, Russ. So last week in our Nemesis of the Week discussion, I talked about leveling up against the tougher teams and maintaining against the other teams because there was a kind of wide variety of level of the teams we
Yeah.
were facing. And, it was hit or miss as we expected it to be, but it was good to end it on a very solid note against the Chicago Blackhawks. Turning again to the Vegas Golden Knights, I think it's a big change of pace. It's a big change of style, and that continues to be difficult. We talked a little bit about salary cap management in terms of if there's this huge jump that we're expecting. And I think for me this week, you've been talking a lot about the holidays in your nemesis of the week and such. Last week you talked about the free turkey rant and being not worth it in terms of the hoops you have to jump through.
Yep. Yep.
So I feel like I can combine the two discussions, and it's just surviving the holiday season as this
Right.
is Thanksgiving week. So things start to really kick into gear with all of, the stuff you have to get done, the places you got to go, the things you got to do. You just kind of got to like be calm and zen about it. But, the very beginning of it can feel overwhelming. I think this can also apply to the Flyers in that they really have to survive this holiday season.
They
And
do.
I think they have to get healthy. There's a lot of really tough matchups coming up, including the Black Friday game against the very good New York Rangers. They're going to face the Florida Panthers again coming up real quick, and that was a tough matchup. We're going to see the Minnesota Wild, who are phenomenal this year.
Except that
Um,
goal that Marc-Andre Fleury lit up. I don't know if
well,
people saw it from
yeah,
Leon Draisaitl. That was crazy.
it's true, but then we'll also place the face the Blue Jackets, which can be extraordinary or terrible. Don't know
Right.
which team is going to
Yeah, they're
show
cr
up.
they're a little better this year.
Yeah, and then of course at the end of the month we have like the California road trip coming up. So a lot to handle for the Flyers this month. So that's why surviving the holiday season is my nemesis this week.
I like it. Mine's going to be uh, for shows and channels that don't give you a chance to watch their show. Like as an example, so if you've unplugged, then you could not listen to me on this. But if you have cable, you'll get it. So as an example, so like Yellowstone, right? So if Yellowstone plays once on Paramount's channel, that's it. Then it goes to Paramount Plus, and you never see it again. So, like, if you didn't know when Yellowstone was exactly coming out that week, and you missed episode 1, you've missed it, and it's over. I did that with there's a new couple of new shows out on some of the networks, and you missed the first one, and then it's like, oh geez, now I got to go look for it on these other pay channels I have because you can't watch it anymore, and it's really, you know, unfair because you're already paying a lot, and so it kind of annoys me. So that's what I'm saying. It's been
Hey,
more than just
Russ,
Yellowstone. Yeah, go ahead.
have you heard about this thing called a DVR?
No, I have a
You can
DVR,
set
but that's
so
but the whole
you
thing
have
is you
to
don't.
set it to record your favorite
I
show.
know, but sometimes they change the title. Sometimes you don't know the show is coming out first. Trust me, my DVR is jammed, but somehow once in a while, like if
Usually they offer pilot episodes for free. So if you miss the first one, you can go
yeah, if it's a
back and watch
pilot, but if it's
it.
a long running series, they don't. But you're right, a pilot they'll redo. So this is one of those little things because I don't think, and again, I'm not on network television a lot. Maybe just watching sports. I don't think they advertise the new shows like they used to. Because some of
Oh,
these
they
new
do.
shows, yeah,
They
okay, I
do.
don't see it then. Okay, so I just don't see that.
I mean, maybe it's because 'cause I'm on the other streaming services, so I see them promoted all the
Okay,
time and they're like their big
right.
tiles at the top.
Oh, and the
But
tile, sure, but I mean, you know, as an actual commercial. So sometimes I think I can miss it. I don't think I'm the only one. I'm just guessing.
yeah, I'm just thinking you're a little behind the times here with
I mean, I have
your
a
TV
DVR. I've
watching
got all kinds of
schedule.
all kinds of channels. Like I don't miss anything eventually, but it could happen and it could bite you.
Yeah, I don't know. I have, like, so many different recorders set for various things, including the Flyers, so I will always get the game no matter what.
Okay, well, I'll give you a challenge right here. And this has been a lifelong challenge. If you watch any NBC, not NBC, any CBS show on Sunday, and that show happens to follow 60 Minutes, you can't DVR it. It's impossible. Because
Because of
what
the
ends up
football delays.
because the football delays will run over. So you're telling me that, well, Russ, just DVR it. That's a situation where, like, if you wanted to watch Tracker this year, you can't watch it because you don't know when they're actually going to show it unless you're watching that channel all day long. So I'm just telling you, there are some things that happen, anomalies.
Yeah, I have Paramount Plus, so I don't worry about these things, and I
Uh-huh.
watch all of that stuff on Paramount Plus, so,
Uh-huh.
that's how I get past all of that. But yeah, I think, there's a lot of holiday specials on TV right now, so the
True.
schedules are definitely different. Most shows
Have
are
they shown
starting to
Frosty
be on
yet?
their I don't care, to be honest.
You're just
But, yeah, all the shows are starting to be on their hiatus for the, winter holidays anyway, and won't be back until January
Yeah,
or
so that's when you have to
February at
get
the
the winter
earliest.
baking shows, like the ones that do the holiday baking, at least give you a couple extra episodes. Because you're right, all of a sudden everybody just ducks out and they don't come back until like after the New Year. Well, not after New Year, after Thanksgiving. It's not that time.
Yeah. All right, that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We, of course, will be back tomorrow to talk Flyers versus Vegas. We're going to talk all about the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, who had a rough weekend as well. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So send in your mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.